Today I have Leesa Freeman as our guest, and she is a mainstream fiction novelist. And I've started to read both her books, and it's very interesting. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to get through them all. She's a native Texan. Leesa enjoys escaping the chill of New England, if only in her imagination, often setting her stories in places she loved growing up, and that's neat. Welcome, Leesa.
Thank you. Thank you for
pleasure.
having me.
Your hands are cold.
I know. I'm always cold.
How did you end up in Connecticut from Texas?
My husband was in the Army, and so we lived in a couple of different places, landed in Germany for 3 years, and then when he got out, was looking just about anywhere on this side of the pond, and ESPN called. So we ended up here. And 12, 13 years later, we're still freezing.
And just starting all over again.
Yeah.
Could be worse. We could be in New York.
Yeah, it could be.
Oh my, 7 feet of snow.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what I would do with that.
Unbelievable. Oh. Now, your debut book is The Wisdom to Know the Difference.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently doesn't know the difference. And how did you get started writing?
Well, for this particular book, it really kind of came out of an idea. I was writing something completely different, which is in a drawer and probably deserves to be. But it came out of the idea of, this conversation that two of the characters had, in which one of them said, my girlfriend had a miscarriage and I didn't know what to do with that and I didn't know how to get through it. And that idea just kind of stuck in my mind. And so I started thinking about who this person was and where he came from and how would he handle that? Because you have so many books about women who have miscarriages and how they handle it.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be interesting to try and examine it from the other side. So that's kind of where it started from.
Now, it's interesting that you write from the male point of view.
I do.
Was that difficult?
It was. And at first it kind of paralyzed the heck out of me because, what do I know about being a guy? Nothing. Yeah. And one of the things that I really wanted to make sure was that it wasn't a woman trying to sound like a man and coming off with that stereotypical every guy is stupid and all that, because that's number one, that's not true. Yeah. And number two, it does me no service to write that way. Yeah. So at first I was paralyzed. How do I tackle this? And then I realized one day I wasn't writing about a person who happened to be a guy, but a guy who just happened to be a person. And so I was able to realize that all of those things that anybody feels, depression and excitement and whatever it is, guys feel that, but just in a different way. And so by exploring the other side of it, I was able to tackle that.
Interesting. Because I don't know if I could write as a woman. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought. And you do very well.
Well, thank you.
I thought you were a guy. Not in the book.
Well, I think of that. I think it's As Good as It Gets, the movie with Jack Nicholson, and they say something about, how do you write a woman so well? And he's like, well, I take everything about a man and take out all of the stuff that's rational and normal and good, and then that's how I write a woman. And that's
movies.
It's the movies, and so I wanted to do it in a way that would give credibility and didn't sound like, a woman trying to be a man, but just a guy.
Yeah.
So.
Now, so far, what I've read, you've done well with it, and I think it's got to be, it's got to be hard to do. Trying to figure out, because your mind is going one way, and you have to write it the other way, and.
Well, the other thing that I found really interesting about it is that when I have tried to write from a woman's point of view, one of the things that often comes into my mind is how is she going to be perceived if she's interested in sex, or if she's drinking, or if she's angry, or if she's, because we have all of these misconceptions and all of these ideas about women and how they're supposed to behave. And if they don't behave that way, then what does that mean about them? And so with a guy, you don't have all of those things. A guy can have sex and not worry about it. A guy can get really, really drunk and no one says anything about that. And so it was actually very freeing in a way.
Double-edged sword.
It is, but it was also very freeing. It was very fun to be able to put aside all those fears about writing and all those fears about how is she going to be perceived, and just go for it. And just, and so it was actually a lot of fun to do it that way too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's